So this week I went into Bromley and I bought 3 Ford Fiestas, a couple of Vauxhall Corsas and a Volkswagen Golf, all in one go. I think I might have coronavirus.
God.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
What are you?
My dad hasn't got any hair, but he keeps a comb with him. He just can't part with it.
Christ.
Well, look, sorry, I'm just going to throw a few out there. I've got some to catch up on. I've got an entire backlog from my enablers out there, and you guys have just got to suffer it. You know.
Oh, beautiful.
It wasn't much fun last year having a broken neck, but at least I can look back and laugh.
Oh.
Yeah,
it's gonna be one of those nights, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Jim, don't say anything, and you're just enabling him. That's all you're doing.
That's right. What do you call a dead musician? He's a decomposer.
Oh.
Anyway, right, enough.
God's sake.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Black Dog version 2, episode 56. I'm Lee.
I'm Darren.
I'm Jim.
And we are without Elton, which may dismay a lot of people as we're doing a film, which is a horror film, which is a baked potato extravaganza.
Pretty much.
Indeed.
Yeah. We will be reviewing this week the movie. Is it your choice, Dal, was it?
That's right, yes.
Go on then. Yeah, what was it?
His house.
His house. Whose house?
Whose house? His house. Wiki.
Yeah. Sponsored by King Edward's.
Yeah, exactly. Sponsored by Maris Piper. And, yeah, for those of you who are new to the Black Dog, only joining us in version 2, this is because our friend Elton, our co-host, who's probably listening to this right now, because he always does, I believe he does anyway, is, he once described the fact that, you know, he was so scared that he just had to look down at his roast dinner and he was just a man looking at roast potatoes. So it
was like Mungo, wasn't it? He was really
like
scared.
Mungo.
So he thought, you can't be scared of the roast dinner, so he did himself a roast dinner to eat it. So.
I think that was another one of my choices, actually, Late Mango. I think it was one that I chose.
Yeah. But in both cases, Jim had done a review of them only 2 weeks before.
Oh, no, that was from many years ago, Late Mango.
Yeah.
I think that was wasn't that like one of the first ones you did, Jim?
Fairly early on, yes, about episode 9 or 10.
Blind.
Yeah, because it was around the time of is it Red Letter Diaries or whatever it is? There was another one. Oh, the Red Sin Tower?
The Red Sin Tower, yeah.
That's it. It was around about that time.
I did a roundup. There was a few of them. There was Instant Loch Ness, Lake Mungo, and what's it Behind the Mask Rise with Leslie Vernon. I sort of
that's right.
Reviewed all sort of 3 of these sort of mockumentaries together.
Oh,
Nice.
And there was the Vietnam War one as well.
Oh, yes. Was it 52 Mopic Charlie?
And I bought all of those on your kind of reviews. The strength of those reviews, it was like, oh yeah, I'll have that one. Oh, I'll better get that one as well.
Actually, now you got me thinking. Before we go into it, we're just having a chat now, everyone. What was that one? There was one about the the goat sucking creature. Is it not the Poughkeepsie tapes? Was it? It was
Le Chuparabras.
Yeah, Chupacabra. It was about that. Oh God! But it turned out it wasn't. It was the guy doing the documentary.
Oh no! I think that's the last broadcast. That's about the Jersey Devil.
Devil. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very hard film to get hold of. The last broadcast now.
Is it? I've still got it on. I've got it on DVD upstairs.
Yeah, it's very long out of print now for various reasons. Because I was going to do a show and I thought, well, no bugger can find it. So, well, it's a surprise he hadn't turned up on streaming, and there seems to be some rights issue tangle.
Well, if I dig through my old DVDs, if I find it, I'll send it to you, Jim, because I remember I've actually got it. I know I've got it because I can even picture the case. It's like a blue case, but anyway, Yeah, okay, I'll send it to you. There you go.
I'd like
Production.
to revisit that as a,
Behind the curtain, people.
Yeah,
behind the curtain.
Production meeting live on air. There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to Black Dog 56. Yes, this week we'll be seeing how everyone's week's been. Elton, as we said, is not here, which is a bit of a shame because obviously, horror films are his bag, and we love scaring the shit out of him. And and then after that, we won't have any feedback. I don't think we got anything for No Country for Old Men. But we will then move on to this week's movie, which is His House. So, before we get into that, let's go on to how was your week, and we'll find out how it was with you, Jim. How was it, sir?
It's not been too bad, actually. Mainly because I took about 4 days off and did nothing but sit around reading old 2000 AD. So that was good.
That's good.
I've been getting the 2000, the Ultimate Collection, where every month I get 2 really fat prestige hardback reprints. Lots of it's not been reprinted, and so I've been stocking it, but I haven't had time to read them for ages. So I had a good dig into them this weekend. We read all the VCs. That was lovely.
Oh, my word.
All the original Invasion, and started working my way through the latter-day sequel strip, Savage.
Yeah.
She's appallingly violent and just really bleak and black-humoured and satirical. That's really good.
Take that, you filthy vogues.
Yeah. I also finally I've issued my PC for months thanks to a Windows update that wouldn't install. And then I kept getting other updates which wouldn't install either. And there's no rhyme or reason to this. No one's any help online. But I finally sorted it out and got the install done.
Nice.
And I had to go very old school. I happened to notice, because one of the problems with the updates was you'd have a bit of the Windows monitoring service just running in the background, getting more and more friends, eating more and more memory, and just going, there's an update to install.
Yeah.
Let's download it. And you download it, and then it goes, I've got 8%, but I can't do it. Yeah. And then it'd start again, and my system would slow down. That task manager over, and I go, stop that. Yeah. And I noticed there's a program, VirtualBox, running. I thought, funny, I'm going to install you. I found out, actually, the Windows update, that's one of the many things it had issues with. And I looked and kind of, hang on, what's funny? I'm sure it's not in the registry.
Yeah.
Not in the folder system. It's not hidden. But somewhere it's fucking running in some bizarre limbo.
Right.
So through the task manager, because you can go to the program location from there, I found it. Yes, it's still there, running in a folder. I got a new version. That wouldn't install. I couldn't install the same version I had. That wouldn't install, so I couldn't uninstall it anyway. So I did it old school.
Yeah.
Deleted the fucking folder. Said, now try running without your files.
Yeah.
And it still ran.
And then went through the registry and manually took out its entries, which wasn't too bad if you know where to look. The 4 things to delete, done. Fuck you. But proper old school computing knowledge coming in there. Or rather, reverse engineered old school knowledge, because I'm sure anyone who has any sort of slight tech magic knows, and has been doing this for a few years. In the early days of Windows, you get someone, friend or relative, ring up, go, my computer's not well, can you come have a look at it?
Yeah.
So you come and look at it, and you'd open up the hard drive and look through and go, you've been deleting things, haven't you? Yeah.
Yep.
What have you done? Well, there's a big folder called drivers. I don't have a driving game, so I got rid of that.
Oh.
Shit like this,
Yeah.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
But it's kind of, when I uninstalled this program, I thought, I know how to do this. I can do it the old stupid way.
Yep.
Just delete the folder. Now run without your files. You can't do it, can you? Nice. I win. And the update's installed, and it's worked fine since.
Nice.
Hooray, at last.
Yeah.
I've been very happy.
Cool. Well, that's excellent.
I was getting to the point of going, I'm just going to buy a new machine, fuck it, and just bury this one in the garden.
Pour salt in the grave and just leave it. Nice. Yeah, because that's always the old problem, isn't it? Everyone gets so used to Windows just being able to do these things by itself. You know, you delete a file, you delete this, and it kind of all comes back and fixes itself. But it's actually when it all stops working completely, it's like, okay, right, fine, we're just gonna have to do this ourselves. Just take it apart piece by piece. Yeah, go old school, people. Learn how these things work.
Yeah, it is worth it. It is totally worth it. We have these problems.
Cool. So, well, obviously it's working because we're talking to you now, so that's good. So, anything else, sir?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
No, 2000 AD and Windows updates. That's cool. Yeah. Nice. Well, fair enough. Okay, then, in which case we shall move on to you, Mr. B. How are you?
Yes, I am doing very well. Thank you very much. This week, I did venture into ye olde London town.
Oh, God.
Yes, I did.
Wouldn't do that.
Or should I say ye olde Bromley town?
Oh, God.
I did come and see my parents after over a year. Not seeing them. I finally got to see them.
Yes.
So, and while I was there, because I was there to actually just, see them and also clear out some stuff, some of my old gear, do some work on getting that all just lobbed out. I happened to go and see someone, right? And I did this unannounced, and would you fucking believe it? They weren't even in.
What an arsehole.
Cheeky fucker.
What arsehole would have done that?
You git.
That's the best bit about your Samsung phone, mate. I can track you just about anywhere.
You certainly can. Yes.
I knew you were within a square kilometre of where I was. I was out.
Yeah, Katie, tell him we're here. Tell him we've gone up the other end of the country or something. Don't let him in.
We're gone. We're out.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. Bury the car on the fucking edge. But there you go. But
Quick,
yes.
cover it in tarpaulin. Yeah.
Of course, you couldn't escape me in the evening. And so I came over and said, hello.
You did.
It was good. It was good.
You drank my beer, you played my PlayStation and left.
I certainly did. And that was it.
Yeah.
Yep. I took a dump in your toilet, didn't pull the chain. Didn't even use
Just
toilet
like old
paper.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch it on the curtains. There you go.
Yeah. I was going to say how different things are.
Not very at all. I used to do that all the time. Come on, man.
You wrote a strongly worded letter to the council about not getting rid of a sofa or something.
Yeah, that was across the road from you. I honestly, I'm not joking. I was shocked to see the state of Bromley. Now, I was expecting to find some cash for gold shops lying in the place because it's just like, I don't remember it being like this. This used to be posh. What's going on here? There used to be posh people. No, there's no posh people.
There are posh people. They just don't come into town.
Yeah, they just hide.
Yes,
Don't
exactly.
they hide away?
Yes.
But no, it was a good visit. And when I actually went through the stuff at Mum and Dad's as well, I found an old Nokia phone. And I'm talking one of those 3220s, I think it is. You know, the blue ones?
3210s, yeah.
Yeah, 3210s with the silver buttons. The ones that you could put in a cannon and fire and, you break the cannon rather than the phone. And had a battery life of 8,000 years. So, or should I say, his battery had a half-life of 8,000 years, because I'm pretty sure it was nuclear actually powered this thing. Radiation leaks, so little danger sign over it. So,
Sellafield in your pocket.
That's it.
Indeed. So I've got that now as a spare phone because I found the charger for it, and there was a battery, and it still bloody well works.
Oh dear, you're becoming more and more a Luddite as the years go on. You've got a massive smartphone in your pocket, and you've decided to go for keeping hold of a Nokia 3210 just in case all the 5G networks go down once Bill Gates takes over the world or something.
Well, I want to get off the grid. If I want to go off the grid, then this is a perfect phone for it, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So there we go.
So what's your Snake High score now?
It's funny you should say that. I also had I've got some sort of rocket ship game as well, where you fly through hordes of aliens coming from the right-hand side of the screen.
Hordes of aliens, rocket ship game.
Yep.
Those words are doing a lot of heavy lifting in your imagination, aren't they?
They are.
Rocket ship game.
Rocket ship game.
Four blocky pixels and some dots flying at you.
Hey,
hordes
come on,
of
man.
alien vessels.
Come on, give me a break, man. Give me a break.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Hordes of no, there are hordes of finely animated
blocks
vessels.
Are they all square?
They've got like a frame rate of 1.
Yeah, that's it.
I think, or is it a minus? I think there's actually a minus next to the frame rate. So
yep.
There you are.
Yep.
But yes, it's a beautiful device, and I have it with me now. So there you go. That's just waiting in case I have to go back to Bromley. I'll leave my smartphone indoors and take that because it's like
you can always beat the mugger to death with it.
I could do, yeah. Put it in a sock. No, it becomes a handy weapon. It's like those spy films, where they sort of like they go into a country and they've got like an alarm clock, and then they break the alarm clock down. It's actually like a fucking 12-foot sniper rifle. It's like that. Yeah. That's what this does. So I've got me socks and I've got me phone and I've got me. That's it. I've got me weapon.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, all you need to do is put the 3210 inside your sock and then just swing it around like a bolas. You could kill everyone, like that scene from Scum where he's going around with the cue ball in the sock.
Yeah,
where's your tool?
You've just got a phone and a sock. Ah, yeah. Well, that's where.
Pay attention, 007. Your latest kid, Nokia 1210.
You put a Nokia 1210. What is this? Cute. Well, you put the Nokia 310 inside the sock, and then you beat their fucking brains out with it.
Swing it around and make it count.
Windmill. Put the keys in the hand. That's it.
Keys between the fingers, keep them swinging.
None of your jiu-jitsu rubbish. No.
Oh well. Right. Okay. Anything else?
Anything else? Watched a new TV series called Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone. I'm pretty sure it's based on a set of books. It's
not Pornhub, is it?
Sorry, Jim.
Not Pornhub, is it?
No, not at all.
What's Babe Station? Anyway,
it's kind of like Prussian War era type stuff, but with magicians and stuff in it. So you've got like bolt action rifles and people casting magic as well. So they're these 2 continents, and they're split right down the middle by this thing called the Fold, which is this gigantic curtain of darkness with these.
You sound very dubious. Are you sure this isn't Pornhub? It's a huge dark fold. No.
Yeah. No.
With some Prussians standing outside it, ready to go.
But yeah, it's not anything that's like the main thing is, you have a character who discovers at a certain
special.
Moment that they're special. Maybe they were born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Yep.
So really, there's not that much in the way of originality there. But you can see they've spent money on this. The effects are very good in it. I like the cast. They kind of bounce off each other very well. So yeah, I'm into it. I've just finished episode 2 of it, so I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. So yeah, that's what I recommend there.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. The thing is, it's a Netflix show, so it's either gonna be really, really good and solid all the way through, or it's gonna get to about episode 3 and then just grind to a halt for 4 episodes until the last 3 episodes for the finale. But
exactly. So we'll see where it goes. But give it a look if you've got a spare hour. Have a look at the first one. Like I say, special effects are very good, but it's not exactly the most original. Manifest destiny. That's the phrase I'm looking for.
Manifest destiny.
Somebody with a manifest destiny because they're special.
Yeah. That's always good.
Indeed. But ignore that. Just have a watch, because there are some nice little touches in it.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially there's a battle between these raiders and a bunch of magicians who are they call them the Grecians, these things. They're part of the emperor's army, and they get ambushed, and it's them fighting against these the wasteland raiders or something coming in. They're trying to get this one person, but yeah, I liked it. The display of power and stuff like that is very good.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that and see what we think. Okie dokie. Cool. Right. Well, anything else?
No, I think that's just about it.
Okie dokie. Right. Fine. Well, in which case, I will just bounce through these. I mean, obviously, I had some cunt trying to break into my house on Saturday.
Steal your beer, aren't I?
Yeah, steal my beer, take a dump in my toilet, didn't pull the chain, and then fucked off after playing 4 hours of my game, getting rid of my origin.
What's a chain?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Other than that, on Saturday, when you came round, I went. My youngest daughter had a friend round for the weekend and the weekend over, and we were going to Lee Valley Water Park or Reservoir for the for some sup boarding and canoeing and all this kind of thing.
All right.
And how can I best put this? Well, let's put it this way. Basically, when I last went, I was like about 12 stone, feeling a lot better about myself, and I looked all right in a wetsuit, at least in my opinion. This time round, I came out and I pretty much, as soon as I got into this wetsuit, I literally thought I could hear the sound of a Japanese whaling fleet coming from over the horizon. This sort of thing.
Hey, it's illegal to hunt you now.
No, yeah, well, I don't know about whether or not Lee Valley Reservoir counts as international waters or not, and
it's up for debate.
Yeah, and so I went on the supboarding thing, and what supboarding is, for those of you who don't know, is essentially it's like a stubby but wide surfboard, and essentially you can kneel on it or you can stand on it and sort of just paddle yourself around this massive reservoir, and the water was absolutely frozen. I mean, like properly freezing, but it's only like about 3-4 feet deep. And so there's no way, unless you've got absolutely zero skills, you're a midget, or you've got no ability to even so much as stand up, you are not going to drown in this water. All right?
Okay.
Anyway, but they still insist on, with health and safety, and because young kids are getting in there as well, everyone has to wear floats. So, like a life jacket. It's like, so there I am, already feeling quite tubby in this fucking neoprene onesie, which has just taken me the better part of like 25 minutes to get into. It's all...
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit too tight. Oh, fuck. And, I sounded like a bunch of people fighting in a barrel full of balloons. But I come out, and then they put this flotation device around me. Suddenly, my already distended gut is now an extra 6.5 inches off of where I am, off my centre of gravity. So now I'm puddling around like some sort of I don't know, kinky wet gimp on a float, and I fall in the water, and oh my god, it was so cold. It literally shocked the air out of me, and I'm like, oh my, I didn't think I could ever feel that cold in my life, but it was because it was so hot outside and the water hadn't had a chance to warm up. And there's this lady sort of coming along, she's paddling along, and she's saying, oh yeah, right, okay, to get back on your board, what you have to do is you have to kick off the floor, and you have to flip yourself onto the board, and then grab the board and pull yourself on.
Which you've done that, I'll throw you a fish.
Exactly. It's like, And yeah, I actually did feel like that. I did feel sympathy for that walrus that's been chased up and down the Thames for the last few weeks. And I tried to do that. And like you'd think with something, I'm only 4 feet deep. So the water's barely up to my chest. And I thought, right, okay, I'll just jump. I jumped, and this flotation device is now hitting the board before I do. So now my arms are actually I'm like T-Rex arms. I can't reach the other end of the board. So I'm scrabbling on this board to try and get myself up. And my centre of gravity is like about a foot behind the flotation device. So I'm just this fat lump on sort of on the far edge of a surfboard, just floundering about trying to get my arse out of the water so I can get my legs onto this board and get back on it. It took me about 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because I just kept getting on it and then just falling back in the water or getting on it and then finally grabbing the end of the board. And then because I'm pulling myself on the board's just lifting itself up and tipping over. So I'm just doing a barrel roll like fucking Star Fox. Like, go do barrel roll, Ace. And anyway, so I knocked that on the head fairly swiftly. I'll be honest with you. I kind of got out of the reservoir rather, sort of looking like this sort of glossy fat orca with legs and a little blue crash helmet on. I was like, fuck this, I'm going up there, I'm leaving this, fuck no, I've had enough of this. I'm all right for being like crazy dad, but as my pride only takes so much. I've gotta go. So there was that. The other thing. What else? I'm just trying to think what else I've done. The other thing was, just a video game thing. My daughter, Katie, she was trying to find a game to play, and she downloaded a farming simulator called Stardew Valley.
Oh, yes.
Have you played Stardew Valley, or have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
I'm familiar with it.
Got it
I've
on
avoided
my phone
it because it might
and
take
on
over
my
my
Xbox.
life.
Funny enough, Jim, that's absolutely the thing that I was going to take away from it, which was essentially I sat there the other day, just sort of backseat driving her, sort of going, oh yeah, you need to plant, you need to collect some seeds, you need to say hello to everyone in the village, you need to collect some crops, you need some iron, you need some ore, you need some things. And basically the mechanics of it is, it's like little 8-bit graphics. It looks a bit like an old Zelda game. And you kind of potter around this map, and you can make a little farm, and the idea is you earn crops, and you water the crops, and you make them grow, and you sell the crops, and you get other crops, and then you go into the mines to mine ore. So basically it's Minecraft without the 3D, but with a bit more character interaction and a tiny sort of backstory about this corporation, like an Amazon-style corporation trying to take over the village. Anyway, so I'm doing all this backseat driving, and then the other day, today rather, Katie goes, "Do you want to play co-op?" And about 5:30, I'm like, "Yeah, all right, fine." Sat down. Literally about 10 minutes before we started recording this podcast, I'm still sitting there going, "No, the strawberries need watering. We can't leave." Hold on, no. We still need to till the fields for the wheat before summer ends.
Doris, can you water me marrow?
Exactly, and it's like, there I am, still sitting there in the midst of Mass Effect 3, still having to go through emotional trauma as characters die left, right, and centre. And then every now and again, I'm thinking, yeah, I could go to Stardew Valley, plant some crops, maybe.
Could do.
Maybe put up a fence.
Sweet corn, there you go.
Yeah, just a little bit of
shed. Build a
It's
shed.
like, what have I become? What have I done? what has happened to me? On one game I'm in tears, and in the other game I'm planting radishes. What the fuck is happening to me? What have I become? Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much been my week. I've literally just been doing that, really. Yeah, and like I said before, we haven't got much feedback in the. So I'll wrap it up there, by the way. So yeah, we haven't got much feedback for No Country for Old Men. In fact, I say we've got not much feedback. In fact, we got no feedback, none at all, not a penny, not a jot. But so let me just take this time to remind anyone that if you go on the Facebook group, we've got the Black Dog music playlist going on, where people, members of the group, are basically adding to this list of things to listen to, but they have to be movie based, movies or films or games or TV, and just and I'm just adding them to a YouTube playlist, so you have something to listen to during the day, which is slightly geeky, but not too bad. That's all I'm saying. Slightly geeky, but quite fun. So if you want to take part in that, go on the Facebook group, get involved. It's pinned to the top. It's an announcement. And otherwise, I will also say that we are, if you've got any feedback for this episode coming up, or any episodes that have happened before, do send them in to feedback@blackdogpodcast.com. Send them into Twitter, which is @BlackDogPodcast, or just get on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/BlackDogPodcast, and just leave a message underneath the episode. Right, well, there you go. Quite a swift and tidy week, I think you can say. And we shall, especially compared to last week. I mean, last week I think we did about an hour and a half just talking about our week.
I think so.
So what we shall do is we shall wrap it here, and we shall say, right, it's time to pull the curtains, dim the lights, because it's time to go into his house. Ooh, spooky, spooky.
I see it's nearly 5 o'clock. I'm here at home, my work's all done. No question where I'll be tonight, a place of cinematic fun. It's the lockdown, but I will not pout. Oh, my friends, I won't be seeing this out alone. There's Lee and Elton and Jim and Darren, all sitting far apart for social distance. We're at the shut-in cinema, down in the bunker of shun. Down in the bunker of shun.
Hey fellas, it's been nearly 5 years. You gonna let me out now or what?
No. Right, so His House is a 2020 horror thriller film written and directed by Remy Weeks from a story by Felicity Evans and Toby Venables, starring, and here we go, Wunmi Musaku and Shopei Dirisu. Yeah, Dirisu.
Well done.
There you go. Shopei Dirisu. There you go. And some guy called Matt Smith. I think he was in some space Holby City or Doctor or something. Anyway, and it tells the story of a refugee couple from South Sudan struggling to adjust to their new life in an English town where there is evil lurking within the walls of their home. The film was actually produced by Vertigo Entertainment and BBC Films, and was put out by Netflix, and was released on January 27th, 2020. And yes, there's no details on how much it cost, because obviously Netflix never want to tell anyone that. And I guess I imagine the BBC with with their finances and license fee probably wouldn't want to tell us as well. So yeah, at the moment there's no other information on its production. To be honest, it's quite light on the production, and yeah, that's about all we know really. Apart from the fact that it debuted at Sundance Film Festival and Netflix immediately acquired the distribution rights. And that's about it. It's won loads of awards: Independent Film Awards, British Film Academy Awards, so BAFTAs. Yeah, it's done quite well for itself with lots of nominations and wins. And I will leave it there. Now, normally I would obviously ask how much you think it was, but obviously we have no facts nor figures, so we shall just skip straight over that and then just go around the table and find out what everyone thought of this. And I do have Elton's quick one-liner, so I can give you that, but unfortunately it does lose something in the. It does lose something, because obviously we would expect Elton to have a potato count, but he said, and I quote, "In a nutshell, really enjoyed it with some disturbing imagery." So that's Elton's choice. That's Elton's feedback, but he's going to give us more next week when he's back. But let's go around the table. Darren, it was your choice, so you go last.
Indeed.
So, Jim, what do you think of this? I mean, I know you've seen it before, but what do you think of it?
Well, yes, this is the my second time out with this film, and I have to say, I think I enjoyed it more the second time round.
Yeah?
So I think, well, as we're getting, I think the nature of the story is where you know certain things that aren't revealed until around halfway. You see, particularly the first half of the film, and things that are said and things that are done, you see it in a different context and in a different light.
Ah, interesting.
And that's why I think kind of this is a film, if you go back to it, it will repay your the revisit and you will get even more out of it. And I mean, I think when I first saw it, it just really packed a punch. So much so I was thinking about it for a couple of days after. I thought, I've got to review this. Sort of what I was planning. I would drop that. I've got to get a review of this film out.
Yeah.
And I'd say this time round, sort of going back into it, I was a bit wary because films like that, sometimes you go back and you can see all the workings and how it's done, and you lose that sort of emotional impact. But I think because the way that it's structured, it's not kind of, I don't want to give people it's a film with a twist ending, but there is, shall we say, developments within the film that really do radically alter how you see those opening scenes.
Yes.
And I felt it was even more powerful when you have the full picture and you revisit it.
That's interesting.
Which is a rare accolade for a movie, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the problem with lots of these kind of reveals in these kind of films, isn't it? It's like whether or not once you know what the reveal is, whether that rewards you rewatching or whether it just completely robs the film of any power. But that's good. I'm glad to know that it did at least carries that weight. Okay. I mean, for me, I would say that this was very much a film of two halves. I watched it last night. I did watch it the couple of nights before, but I'll confess that I bailed. I panicked and I was just like, no, thank you. I shall watch it another time.
In the daylight.
And in the daylight. And then, like an idiot, I ended up leaving it till lastminute.com and then watched it last night at like freaking 11 o'clock at night in the dark on my own. and I did it, and then I was like, I've made a terrible miscalculation here. I've done something terribly, terribly wrong.
Gone on holiday by accident.
Yeah, I've gone on holiday by mistake. But I will say that the scares, shall we say, we'll discuss them a little bit later on, but the scares, which are so powerful at the start, and they are supremely so well done, that I was constantly tense for the first, I don't know, I suppose the first 35, 40 minutes of the film. That there's a sort of for me, there was a sort of bumpy patch in the middle where for whatever reason, which we will discuss in the spoiler section, the scares kind of get explained, shall we say?
Yeah.
And then it becomes the second half of the film where the scares almost become part of the life, and you end up the film sort of focuses more on the drama between the main characters, which is good, but with such a strong opening, anyone wanting that to carry on through kind of will feel a little deflated, and that's how I initially felt. But then when, as you say, there's a reveal, and once that comes back in, it's just the film comes at you in a completely different way and knocks you for six. And I just thought, wow, okay, this isn't a horror film anymore. This in terms of a supernatural horror film, this is a human horror film, and then it becomes a completely different kettle of fish. And I did appreciate it more by the time I got to that second half. Whereas there's like a little patch in the middle where I was kind of like, oh, okay, we're defanging that then, are we? Okay, fine. But no, overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a fantastic piece of work, and is it? I don't know if it's Remy Weeks' first film or his debut or whatever, but it's if it is, it's a very strong opening film. I mean, it's definitely.
Yeah, I believe it is actually.
Yeah.
So, other than a few shots.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's really powerful. Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit more in a minute. But so there you go. I thumbs up. I think it's generally how it goes. What about you, Dal?
Yeah, I was so happy not to be disappointed by this. I'd heard some great stuff about it, and it's like a film gets built up, you watch it, and it kind of you find yourself, most of the time being disappointed by what you get presented before you. But what I've found is this: it kind of there's been one or two big films, mooted as like horror, scary films recently, like things like The Babadook, to give you an example, that are mooted as like, scary ghost story. And it's really, I don't know, it's not doing the film the just service by just doing that.
Yes.
Because there is so much more to it than that. There's like a real emotional layer to this film, and there's conflict about how you feel about the character, or at least one of the characters in it. Yeah. And it's just, I like films like that challenge you.
Yeah.
That give you an impression one way, and then you find the whole story, and it's like, this is really kind of, whereas as a knee-jerk reaction, if this was presented to me, if the reveal was presented to me, you hate the person for what they did. But then you've got all this, I don't know, it's just everything that's built around that comes before it, where you get to know the characters before that happens. And that's context is everything, I think, and this film just really good. As you say, it's a very powerful film. It's quite depressing in places, and it's sad in others, and very creepy in other bits of it as well. I mean, it's got the sort of scares that I really love, where you notice something out of the corner of your eye, something going on. You're watching like what's going on mainly on screen, but then something catches your attention. It's like, yeah, it's like that.
Yeah,
and I love those kinds of films. I mean, I think there was another one that did that one about a possession for quite a popular film. I mean, three films in the series. What the it's about
not Paranormal Activity or anything.
No, not Paranormal Activity. This is about it's about a kid who can see a spirit in the room. It's not The Babadook. It was it's only in the last few years, and it's got quite a creepy effect for it's like a black figure with like an odd shaped one eye, and it's got red in it, and you notice it hanging on the ceiling. It's,
oh blimey, what is it?
We're great film reviewers, we are, aren't we?
Yeah, you're doing quite well. Yeah, I was going to say it's not the Conjuring films, is it?
No, it's very. It came out, I think it's around the same time. Anyway, I love that sort of thing where it subtly presents you. You know, it's not all jump scares. It's that, like, something's wrong, and then your eye latches on to what's wrong, and by then it's too late because it's normally in your face.
Oh, hang on.
Or like a blurred image behind a person that's moving slowly towards them. My word. And you don't get to see the full detail. Love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for me, the scares were done very well. Yeah, the emotion in this story is amazing. The parts for both the lead actors, excellent performances by the pair of them.
Yeah,
excellent,
brilliant. Okie dokie. Well, okay. At this point, we'll just warn you from here on in. Any further discussion obviously does require spoilers, and I think you've got a general idea from us, all three of us, that and Elton's short text message that that it's a definite thumbs up. So if you are into scary, atmospheric sort of horror movie with an actual real serious message at the heart of it, and strong performances from the two leads, I think you deserve to you owe it to yourself to give this film a look.
Definitely.
However, if you've not seen this film and you continue listening, we are bound to bring up a spoiler which turns this film on its head, and I just would rather you went in blind. So again, as ever, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Please, just, if you've not seen the film and you're interested in watching the film, just know that it's good. Stop listening to us now. Go watch it. Come back and listen to us later, all right? There you go. This is your final warning. 3, 2, 1. Okay, right, fine. So let's talk about this film. So, I mean... Firstly, let's get basic. I mean, the scares themselves, as you say, Dowie, they're quite well handled. How did you? I was going to say, ask Jim what he thought of those scares, because obviously Jim is our horror aficionado.
Indeed, he is.
And then I wanted to discuss kind of how I felt about them and whether or not anyone else agreed with this. Because, well, firstly, let's go to that. Jim, what did you think of these scares as they were presented, how they were done, that sort of thing, especially in context of other movies like this sort of thing?
I thought it was really, really just elegantly done. And on one hand, there's a lot of things that are kind of your standard tricks of the trade. But it's kind of it's how you use them. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you're doing a rock song, a heavy rock song. You need a guitar solo.
Yeah.
However, what makes a good guitar solo isn't the fretboard wankery involved. It's actually when it appears in the song and how long it goes on for.
Yes.
And that's the thing, kind of with like, because there's some I mentioned that because kind of in the horror movie lexicon of things to shit you up.
Yeah.
The jump scare is like the guitar solo.
Yes.
It's the really big, obvious thing that everyone tries to do. And where people get it wrong is to just overuse them. And like bad guitar solos that go on too long, it's not orchestrated. Whereas here, you've got some really good jump scares. And they're that good, you don't realise they're jump scares. You don't think of them as jump scares. Because you think, Christ, I'm scared. You see what I mean?
Yes.
You don't feel like you've been had. But it's pulled the same sort of cheap trick, basically, by going quiet, quiet, loud!
Yeah.
Or having something pop up.
Yep.
It is a cheap trick. But if you orchestrate it well, You actually get the genuine fright out of it, not just a reaction. A physical, you get a psychological and emotional reaction rather than a physical one. But where this stands out, though, I think it's the imagery it uses in all those little cinematic scare setups, because I think it gives you something that you will not have seen before, and at first you can't process. You don't even know what you're looking at.
Yes.
And it slowly begins to kind of unlock, as it were. And I think you're right. It is a film of two halves, and I think kind of it goes from a kind of ghost train scares to actually it is a visual metaphor in the climax of the film. It really goes to try and get under your skin. By the end.
Yeah.
Very good.
Nice. I'm liking that. Nice.
I think kind of, as I say, there's Stephen King talks about sort of different levels of horror, and there's kind of the base level is like the gross out, which is really, just throwing a bucket of blood at the screen or chewing with your mouth open, going
yeah,
it's
exactly.
easy to gross people out. Then you see, he said the scare where you creep up and go boo, but then you go to the really deep level of the horror, where it's not about things going boo, but it's things that actually worm their way into your head and will just sit there and will come back to you after the film's gone.
Yeah,
and that's the real horror. And I think that's this movie. It works through that kind of the ghost train scare to the true horror at the end. And you get the true horror because it's a story with an emotional weight.
Yeah, I guess that's always the way, isn't it? If you don't care about anything going on, then the why would you care about the scares that are going on to these characters if you don't give a shit about them?
Well, fear is like lightning has to be grounded.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're
but,
on the.
I am on fire tonight. But if you people talk about the suspension of disbelief, and I think that's kind of the wrong metaphor, because I think you have to bring the imagination home and bring it down to earth, so it kind of people actually think, shit, this could happen, or shit, this is happening.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's you got to tether the horror. It isn't kind of like about soaring off into fantasy, like suspension of disbelief sort of implies. Rather, you really have to kind of. Ramsey Campbell had a good phrase there. You have to crystallize the horror.
Yes.
From the abstract to the real, and make it this sharp, shining thing. You can't. It fascinates.
Yeah. Yeah, it has to be used like it's the sauce, it's the seasoning. It's not the steak.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, cool. And now feel like if you want to jump in, Dal, feel free. But
I will.
Good. But the thing that threw me for a while, and this is what I was meaning in my opening about the two halves, was that the first half does everything that I like about horror. When horror's done well, it lets you do the work. It lets you see the things that aren't there. It lets the fears that you have, and it lets you put them on the screen in front of you, in your mind. So you don't have to see googly-eyed monsters or dripping slime or, as you say, buckets of blood being just chucked at a screen with bogies being flicked at you while someone goes bleh. Just the simplest thing of knowing that you're in an empty room and then hearing a child's voice go,
Oh, yeah.
Bang. That's it for me. Thanks very much. I'm out.
Or a door slowly opening.
Or someone walking in the hallway downstairs.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't... That's the sort of primal fear where your brain goes, I've seen this. I know where this is going. I don't want to be a part of this. This is not nice. I'm not having this. This is doing me up. And where I think, when I was saying about the two halves, I think the problem is that about midway through, they start going sort of monster palooza, so to speak. There's lots of creepy stuff in the walls. And that all still works. I mean, especially some of the imagery with like when the holes in the walls and you notice there's actually a face in the wall. Or
there's multiple faces.
Yeah, multiple faces in
holes.
multiple walls and all that kind of thing. But the problem is, and I think this goes back to what we were saying earlier about like caring about people. But if the people in the film show little or no reaction to these things, suddenly the things themselves their impact is lessened. And what happens is, as the film starts to refocus on Bowl and on on Bowl and Rial, and it starts to refocus on them and their ordeal, and these things are, the guilt and everything that they're trying to face comes out. They face these supernatural forces and supernatural horrors with a kind of day-to-day kind of, what are you going to do? Like someone's got like ants in the kitchen, oh, okay, I'll have to fucking deal with a night witch. And that transition suddenly, for a fair portion of the middle act, robs the scares. And it's such a contrast between what is really a powerful opening 30 minutes, where I watched that film and I was on edge. I was tense pretty much all the way through. And they're doing all, as you say, they're doing all the hoary old tricks of, you're looking at Bowl's face, and then you notice that he's slowly being moved slightly to stage right. So you're like, what is coming over his shoulder? What is coming over his shoulder? And it's making you tense, but then you get nothing except for the sound of the girl's voice. And it's like, oh, you wrong-footed me, you bastards. Oh, I'm even tenser now. You've got me. But like I say, the thing that threw me was that sort of shift from supernatural horror to human horror. And you get a moment of sort of pardon in context, but you get choppy waters in between. Where you're kind of going, I was really scared at the beginning, but suddenly I don't feel it anymore. There's a guy with a wonky face and a knife, and there's zombies coming out of water, and there's ghosts and ghoulies being appearing in every single part of the room, and you're sort of like, yeah, and for some reason, I don't know, it just completely robbed the film of any power for a good 15-20 minutes. And then slowly it starts to dawn on you the rest of the film and what it really is about. And it's like, oh, okay. And that was kind of the sort of two halves, what I meant by the two halves, and why I was kind of trying to get a sense for the horror perspective from yourself, Jim. But what about you, Dal? I mean, did you feel that? Did you feel the horror was consistent all the way through, or the transition from supernatural to human horror was?
Well, let's see. I think there's more metaphor in that horror than just what it was trying to say about the past.
Oh yeah,
for these people. For me, it's the horror itself is representative of probably what refugees from war-torn areas actually go through. It's that whole thing of what they had to do to get to safety. Now, I know there is the reveal in it,
Well, we're in the spoiler zone now, so we can go.
Exactly. So the reveal that they used a child to get to safety, or at least Bowl was the one that did it. Initially this can seem like, oh, he's an evil man. But we know from watching the film that Bowl himself is not evil. And it's a big question of, it's very easy to sit back and claim that Bowl is evil from what he's done. If you didn't have the context, it's very easy to sit.
Position of safety, isn't it?
Exactly. You can say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But it's like, put yourself in that situation. People get hacked to death, right? As well as shot. There's a number of terrible things that can happen to a person when they're in that kind of, war zone, in that where you've got a warlord running rampant, just going through, just slaughtering people left, right, and centre for no good reason apart from slaughtering people.
Yeah.
Okay, this is it. What would you do in that situation? And I just wonder how many people who would, label Bowl as being evil would actually not stoop to doing something like that out of desperation.
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of the human horror, isn't it? It's that kind of realization deep down in your own heart that, how desperate must someone be to do something like that?
I think that's what the ghosts are, though. In this, that is there, because they come out and say you have to deal with the ghosts in your life, right? You have to come to terms with them, right? For things that you've done yourself, and it's that. It's as well as being a very well, very well done sort of like ghost story. I think that is just representative of what it's just putting the message across to people that, look, you think that they've just come to this country just for the fuck of living an easy life, and it's like, no, this is the baggage that they bring with them. It's this kind of stuff that affects them to this, where they, it could drive a person mad, that kind of thing. The horrors that they see, and this is it. This is the message of that film.
Yeah.
I think not like just a great ghost story. It's just trying to tell you that. It's trying to put that kind of point of view across. I hope I've made myself clear.
No.
Just...
that's the thing is there's a number of things going on in here.
Yeah. I
mean, again, Jim, feel free to dive in here. But I mean, it's like the firstly, the horror is what, man's inhumanity to man. The situation in Somalia already is, a horrific thing, Yeah. Then you've got the horror of, knowing that these people can't escape because there's only one bus. Then there's the whole horror of, what is Bowl doing in desperate bid to, save himself and save oh God, Riel, and then obviously there's the horror of living with it, and then obviously you've got the horror of what happens to the child as well, and there's so much going on here, and it's just at that level. There's the
thing with Riel as well that she goes through for having survivor's guilt.
Yeah,
because of where he finds her. They show you that bit where Bowl comes to get her, and she's hiding in a small cupboard to get away from the gunman. She comes out, and everybody has been slaughtered. It's a room full of women that have just been gunned down.
Yeah, but not only that, isn't there an implication, or at least did I hear the implication that she was with child and the child had died?
It could very well be either that, or maybe she was so traumatized by the event that she believed that the girl that they picked up was actually her daughter. And this is why they said to her, no, you haven't got a daughter here, because if she was pregnant, she lost the baby, then of course the spirit would have been represented, but there was no spirit there. And you see it dawn on her what she actually went through. It's as if she forgot. It's like her memory's been, it's been blocked out.
Yeah,
and then it's going through this that it's like suddenly her brain is like, well, now you're in a situation, you're safe, and I think you can deal with this. This is what actually happened.
Yeah.
Well, my take on it's been, having watched it twice.
Yeah.
In the first act, we're seeing a lot of things with Ball. But Rial is being acted on by the Night Witch as well. But it's exploiting her in a different way.
Yeah.
It is trying to scare the living shit out of Bald and threaten him. But on her, as you sort of you see, she's been seeing the girl and seeing her old life still there, and it's saying, I can give you that back.
Yeah.
And that it's interesting because it is kind of just her story's kind of underlaid between him. There's this constant thing that he wants to fit in, he needs to go forward, and she's trying to go back. But what she's going back to is a lie, because one, it's not there. She knows it's not there.
Yeah.
But also, she's justified what he did to get on the bus with her, to say, well, we'd have made that girl. She would have been our daughter. She was our daughter. And, it's kind of, that's kind of something she's crystallized it and balled it all up sort of that way. And that's why, she doesn't want to, give up her culture. She says at once, we've got to go back.
Yeah.
And later on, you realize, well, there's nothing to go back to.
No. Yeah.
Everyone you knew there is dead.
Yes.
The town has been razed. It's on fire. There is, you can't go back. You can't turn the clock back. But that's because you got the Night Witch telling you, you can do that.
Yeah. That's right.
It's the classic devil's bargain, though. You never get exactly what you ask for. The end result, if it worked, was that she'd kill Ball, she'd go crazy, and in her own mind, she'd be back in the nice school with all her friends still alive, and have the daughter she never had. And it would have been her daughter.
Yeah.
It's just such a clever film. It's such a nuanced film, and there's a lot of what they call the elevated horror movies.
Yeah.
Where people say, "Oh, the horror's a metaphor," and people are the real monsters, And it's kind of, fuck off.
Yeah. The three-legged dog is America.
yeah, it's like, yeah, well done. Yeah, we know that. Whereas this, Remy Weeks is a big horror fan. His favourite film is The Shining. And he said he wanted subtext, but he didn't want the subtext to be an explanation and gyp you of the horror.
Yeah.
And what he actually picked from, and it is real mythology about the Apeth, the Night Witches. And is when you've got misfortune in your life, it's thought a night witch is preying on you, and it will eat your good fortune. And it will just take and absorb you. And it's sort of built into the mythology. It's kind of these things. They're not like a physical oogie boogie monster. They are like evil spirits that live on our pain.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the reality and the metaphor are completely blurred in the actual folklore. And it's kind of, it doesn't matter whether the Night Witch is real or not, because it is very real to them, and the horror is real.
Yeah. Yeah, so
you know what I mean? So you're not getting shortchanged on the monster. The monster's real whichever way you cut it.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? You start, you seeing as Elton's not here for the moment, let's put the tinfoil hat on and say that, is all of it in their minds? You start to get into that sort of thing of, because neither of them see the other one's, Night Witch, so to speak, until the very end. I tell a lie, till the very end when she cuts its throat. But that's, but even then, that's, by that point you're into sort of full metaphor, aren't you? It's a case of, is any of this real anymore? Or is it just everyone, just a representation of them coming to terms with the horror they've endured and the guilt that they feel and the realization that this is their home, regardless of whether or not they like it?
Well, there's the whole thing of, Bowl finally accepts what he's done, which is why he says, "Look, you have to go now and leave me to it, because this is what the Night Witch wants." And then it's Rial's coming to terms with what has happened, the survivor's guilt and everything like this, by destroying the witch. And it's like just those two coming back together. It's a powerful love statement, that whole thing. It's like, get away, it's me, this is it, this is what I've done, I'm going to pay for it, and her not, seeing that he's accepted it and accepts stuff herself, and then it's that, you know, she could have, as you said, the past. She could have it's literally handed to her. She holds the child's hand, and then she says, "I'm sorry, I've got to go home." Home being where Bowl is, which is in that house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have to forgive themselves, then they can forgive each other.
That's right. Yeah. And that's kind of key to the. I mean, that's why I was kind of wondering how much of it ultimately is a metaphor, or in their minds through their guilt, because firstly, because of the way they were reacting to the horrors, and the fact that, and it's part of the start of that sort of moment for me where I think the horror staggers, but when Rial just literally just appears out of nowhere and just lays it out straight and flat and just goes, "We're being haunted by a night witch. By the way, it's a night witch, and night witches haunt people who've taken things that they shouldn't have done." And you're like, right, okay, so and she's hearing one thing from the night witch, and he's hearing another. He's seeing another, but neither of them are in each other's presence when these things happen, and.
It's divide and conquer.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You can either take it on face value and say there is a night witch doing this, or you can turn around and just say what we're going through is, what the whole thing represents is this massive psychosis between the two of them, both suffering their own version of survivor's guilt and, an isolation by being in a country they don't understand, with people who don't care about them or don't appear to care about them. And, Bowl wants to try and fit in as much as possible, and Rial wants to go home. And
well, to coin an internet meme, there is a third option. Why can't you have both? Why can't the trauma be the doorway in which the witch comes through? It's like a weakness. It's like a hole in the fence.
Well, that's the thing, that in Dinka folklore and Dinka expressed beliefs, which I did look up afterwards. I mean, that is, they don't draw that distinction. That's a distinction we in the West make because, frankly, we're fucking morons. There's a real world, there's the physical stuff, and the stuff in your head isn't real because it's in your head. And it's actually the other way around. Everything in your head is the real stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's as real as anything else. Yeah. It's
realer because that real world, that's actually all head stuff anyway.
Yeah.
There's a philosophical conundrum. I think it's Schopenhauer's demon, Maxwell's demon, which basically says that you actually have no way of knowing and no way of proving that everything you experience in your life isn't just an illusion conjured up by a demon. And there's a more modern version saying, you can't know. You're not just a brain in a tank.
Oh, yes.
To artificial reality. And the fact is that it still stands, whichever you phrase it, demoned or computers. All you have is your own conscious experience. There is no real world.
Yeah, you are basically a fleshy mass of nerves sat inside a bone and skin mech, wandering about, only seeing what the sensors are showing you.
Wow, that's a cynical view, but yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, well, like I say, you never saw me trying to get onto that sup board. I can tell you, my mech's fucked. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, what about sort of like the periphery characters? I mean, just for a second. I mean, because the one thing I did appreciate, and this may be just a frippery aside, but the Matt Smith character could have so easily have just been sort of a one-note villain. And I thought that was quite interesting, because once they've been dropped off at the house. And the film kind of turns into this whole thing of, it's all about isolation. It's all about, the people around them don't trust them. The people who are around them are racists, either overtly or, hiding it, poorly. And you get Matt Smith sort of in there going, right, okay, here it is, lovely, just a bit of a clean and the brush up and open up the windows and everything. And you think, oh, God, it's going to be slimy official number 4,672. And yet there's a whole thing with him that I think he plays quite nicely, which is this, he's working within the strictures of the system, but he's actually quite, he's quite sympathetic to their plight, even when they start telling him that they've got witches in the house.
Yeah, I think he's like you say, he actually wants them to win. I think he's pretty genuine in that. I think he just genuinely cares. I think there was a thing there he talked about being at a bank before, and I wouldn't have been surprised if he said, I got out of that because, I was tired of I was tired of living life as I did.
Yeah. I mean, because the reason I bring it up is because what I think this film does really well. And again, if you got other opinions or you got anything you want to embellish on this, just jump right in. But I think it keeps your perspective with the main characters, with Bowl and Rial.
Yeah.
And after you've seen all this stuff, you've seen all this horrible stuff, them crossing and losing the child and all this kind of thing. And at first, you kind of like, as soon as you see like how they're thrown on a bus, then they're thrown off of a bus, and they're just dumped outside of a house, and then there's the Matt Smith character sort of just standing there going, right, okay, come on, inside you go, and then the door falls off its hinges, and the place is a shit heap, and he's just like, right, see you later, there's a DIY shop down the road, bye. The thing that I find interesting is that you see, even though you see him being sympathetic, I don't know about you guys, but I felt that I was watching all these characters through the main character's eyes. And even though he was appearing sympathetic, you couldn't help but be cynical about it. The same with the doctor, when she's doing the health check on Rial.
I think that point of view is a nice switch on. Probably they treated those people how the people would treat how they would actually see the immigrants as being there just to to live off the goodness of the United Kingdom, and it's like, yeah, I can see that, how they would make them incredibly two-dimensional, because that's how a lot of people over here would look at an immigrant and just judge them straight off as being a bad thing. It's like, oh, you're into crime, this, that, and the other. It's that whole the comedic argument, isn't it? They're here to take our benefits and steal our jobs, and it's like, well, what one is it? Because you can't have a job if you're going to get benefits. But then, like
Schrodinger's immigrant.
Yeah. So, are they here to steal the jobs, or are they here to steal the benefits? Make up your mind.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that was another thing all the way through it, treating everyone and everything with suspicion that they were being treated with themselves, and it was just, I just found it a really interesting way of doing things, because, normally your brain would be like, oh yeah, these guys are, you get the officious prick who's just being officious to be officious, or you'd get the the guy who's the kind-hearted one who's either going to die or be, put off to, put out of screen for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was really interesting to just do that sort of, 1 minute you're seeing someone being really nice, but you're even viewing them cynically based on the fact that you've been following these characters who've been treated cynically by the system all the way through, and then all of a sudden it's just like, no, I don't trust him as far as I can fucking throw him, actually. And
I think that's a great thing about the film. Then
Yeah.
that's how well written it is. If it puts you in their place and gives you that kind of that attitude, I think then the film has really done its job well.
Exactly. But anyway, so what about the well, okay, let's go to the actual twist. I mean, the actual twist itself of the fact that Bowles stole this child. I mean that, as you say, as you both pointed out, it does put you into a mind of, oh fuck. Firstly, that's why the Night Witch is after them. But secondly, or probably the other way around, considering I'm probably an inhuman bastard, but it's like, oh my god, they've stolen the child just to get away. And despite the fact that maybe it's completely incomprehensible to any of us because we've never been in that sort of situation. But what was it in the film that made you finally forgive Bowl about that? Or did you ever forgive him? Because as you rightly pointed out, Dale, that sort of event, or maybe even Jim mentioned it, but that sort of event would make a character utterly irredeemable in any other film.
It's oh man, it is that they give you a view of his character before you get to learn this, right? There's a certain Babylon 5 episode where they do the same thing, and it leaves you questioning. It just leaves you questioning your judgment and stuff. It's very easy. It's easier for a soldier to kill someone else, right? To kill another soldier when they don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
And this is the same kind of thing. You get to learn about Bowl. You get to see his actions outside of this and how he's trying and how he wants a better life for him and his wife. Yeah, to me, the things you see him do, this is a man that gets pushed to desperation again for what he does, like, banging holes in the walls and stuff like this. It didn't strike me as an evil individual. He struck me as a person who panics, that anxiety for a situation that he's in, a desperate situation, can really take him over, and he'll just do anything to get out of it if he can, especially if he's trying to protect his wife as well.
What about you, Jim?
Well, it's interesting because it is such a punch in the gut, that reveal in the middle.
Yeah.
But it's so well played because it isn't just a cheap twist. I think, the film has played you like a fiddle.
Yeah.
And you believe that these are grieving parents who lost their child trying to escape from their country to come here.
Yeah.
Then you find out it wasn't a child at all.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, my God, that's dark. But I think because you've already gone through so much with them, and that grief is real. And that kind of bottomless, could I have done something different? And again, that's another species of, survivor guilt, not just for people who've had war torn, but anyone who's lost somebody sort of suddenly, tragically, accidentally. You always that question, is there something I could have done to have changed it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think by the time you get that reveal, although it's a shocker, at the same time that had she lived, they would have loved her as their own daughter.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have just dumped her at the other side. She wasn't just a flesh ticket.
Yeah.
They were prepared to take on the responsibility of what Boll had done and see it through to the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes a difference, and that's what kind of, for me anyway, it's like, I remember the first time we watched it, me and Tree was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you can't at the same time, you just don't have, you don't want to judge them for it because you don't think you can. Having seen everything that led up to that moment.
Yeah.
It's kind of I can't sit in judgment of this man for
No.
A moment of madness and panic and anxiety in unimaginable circumstances.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing, isn't it? You can't. I guess that's another genius part of the film is that it's shades of grey. You sit there and going, that is absolutely abhorrent. Especially considering how. But then you get this kind of weird bit of the flashback where once they've sort of stolen the child, so they've kidnapped the child to get on this bus. You get that bit of watching the mother running away, running after the bus.
Yeah.
And then she disappears in a cloud of smoke, and then you hear gunfire, and it's like, okay, so, you could justify it by saying that they've saved the child. But then you've got another thing where you turn around and go, well, okay, maybe, but that wasn't their decision to make. As good as it, as good as it inadvertently became a decision to make. But I have to say, for the first sort of like 5-10 minutes after that reveal, I know you don't really want to sit in judgment of the guy because you know what's been going on with these people, what they've been enduring to get to this point, which is already a nightmarish situation on its own, let alone the loss of a child as well. But I have to say, I was like, oh, you get everything you bloody well deserve, mate. You really do. And I was like that for a good 5-10 minutes, and then it just sort of dawned on me that really that's what this film's all about. It's about guilt, and he, more than anything, feels guilty for this. He feels guilty for his actions. He feels guilty for the actions he took in desperate situations. And then not only that, but the sort of horror of the fact that that mistake not only was a horrible thing to do, but also cost the child her life in the crossing as well. After they'd already sort of, I don't know, squared it away that this was their child now to all intents and purposes. But but it's a really thorny conundrum. It's the sort of thing where I think you could probably do a podcast for about 6 hours just discussing over the rights and wrongs of just that bit.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of the genius of the movie, is that you can watch it as just a ghost story, but then you can watch it as a study on guilt and a study of the horrors of war and the study of isolation. Because they're stuck in that god awful maze like council estate. Which at one point, and I don't know about you guys, but again, I don't know how you felt about it, but at one point I thought it was like, actually, they're in hell, they're in purgatory. They didn't make it. None of them made it, because that place was as horrible a place as you could possibly imagine to put them in after they've just gone from somewhere. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about it.
Alexei Sale had a joke about how town planners and architects are all actually dedicated anarchists because they build these estates to actually increase isolation, anxiety, and social suffering in order to bring forward the revolution.
Oh God!
And there's a lot of truth in that kind of. I mean, I have been lost on an estate like that. There's one in Lancaster. Yeah. It's a bit nicer than that, but it is this kind of surreal kind of house is designed by people who kind of been told about a house but maybe never seen one. And streets that are all just like weird cul-de-sacs and dead ends.
Yeah.
And I remember it took us about an hour to get out this fucking estate. It was, and you have no sense of direction at all because it's all just so cramped and small.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in the way of like landmarks. And it's kind of like, right, it is.
Yeah.
It did remind me of very like Ramsey Campbell, who writes a lot of kind of these sort of horror stories that really delve into pretty much have a social awareness and like his native Liverpool and a lot of urban paranoia. And like when Riel asked for direction from those kids.
Yeah.
And it is kind of like, are they kids or are they demons tormenting her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Again, the film shifts to become a sort of social commentary on the state of council houses and the people in them, and it's just so much stuff going on there. And then you've got institutionalized racism with three black kids literally saying to this lady, "Go back to Africa." It was just like, wow, okay, welcome to the planet irony. Just like, did these guys would have absolutely gone mad if they'd suffered the same indignity from someone else.
Yeah,
it's just wow. There was just so much in this film where I just sat there going, this is hell. This place is absolute hell, and they've got to be almost happy about it. You know what I mean? They've got people are looking at them saying, you've got to be happy about what we've given you, and that was just bloody awful. Okay. One thing I was going to point out one thing I was going to ask was, what did you have a favourite scare? Was there a moment that just really sent the chill up your spine? Because of course, we haven't really focused too much on the horror beyond the horror of the entire situation and the movie in general.
I think it was the first one when the child's on the floor, just appears or like behind him.
Yeah.
Goes, and it's like he turns around and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I think that one, because that caught me off. That fucking really did catch me off guard. It's that, and also the blurry figure walking up behind him.
Yeah, I was going to say that blurry. Oh. Well, I'll speak about it in a sec. What about you, Jim?
I do like the scene where he's eating at the table, and he's kind of pulls out, and he's in a ruin on water. I didn't see it the first time, but you do see the Night Witch as like this hooded figure with glowing eyes just appearing out the mist behind him. Yeah. And I was like, shit! I didn't realise we saw it earlier, but it was then. It's holding the knife, which I thought, that's clever. Yeah, that's really good and really creepy.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was the sounds, the audio work on this film is just astounding. They just you got all the sort of standard sort of noises and background of a council estate kind of kicking off, and then all of a sudden you just get this kind of clear as a bell, just this child going, and it was like, nope. Thank you. Yep. Peace out.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, turn me over. I'm done. But in terms of like physical monstery scares, I think the only one when it starts becoming more physical and you start seeing the zombies and the ghosts and the things in the walls and all this kind of thing, they start to lose their power for me. It's always been the case with me in horror films. The less you see, the more I'm scared. But the one that did work was the bit when he's just staring down the corridor, and that sort of very lanky figure just walks into the middle of the doorway in the shadow, and that even now I'm talking about that, and the back of my hairs have just gone up, and I was like, that feels very familiar, and I did a quick Google, and it's Javier Botet, who's a guy who's got all these got a sort of limb disorder. Can't remember what it's called now. I can't remember what the bloody thing's called. But the long and the short of it, he was the creature in Wreck.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
right.
And also in Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak.
Yeah. So, whenever you see, Nina, the sort of really spindly fingers are all going on the wonk, and you're like, oh no, thank you very much, I don't like that, Was it Marfan syndrome? That was it.
Yes.
Marfan syndrome. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, never look up Marfan syndrome. I did it once to look for reference for doing a drawing of Judge Death. Nope. Just nope. All right, just don't. It's just no. I feel bad for people who've got it, but just no. Big fat no.
I know someone who's actually
Yeah,
got it. But,
yeah.
it's a disease that's or a condition that means that you can't actually swim properly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's no buoyancy in your body at all because there's no fat.
No, I was going to say you got no fat and extremely
you
long
don't float.
Extremely long fingers and extremely long neck and extremely long arms.
Life expectancy can be up to the age of, I think it's like 40.
Yeah,
And that's it. It can be that. There's a lot of cases where people don't live past that age with that syndrome.
Yeah, but so we're just getting happier and happier in this podcast,
we are,
aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Come on, Dal, sit on my sofa and tell me about another murder or person that's died in your presence.
Thank you. Yes, I will.
Yeah, but no, it's just I have to say I found all the atmospheric sounds absolutely horrific. It's nothing. There's nothing worse. You could put me in a completely locked room with all the lights on, no problem at all, no windows, no ability to get in or out, and then just play one sound of something scratching on a wall, and that'd be like, "Thanks, I'm out. Let me out. Get me the fuck out of this house."
Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good night. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a syndrome for that, being terrified of sound. But anyway, and so for me, it was the audio, and it was that one lanky ass fucking girl down the end of a corridor thing. It was just like sort of brought back the first time I ever watched Ring, and it was just like, no, thank you. Anyway, so the other. Have we got anything additional to add? I mean, because personally, I was going to say this: we're kind of circling the same elements, really. That this film is kind of a meditation on grief, on loss, on horror, on isolation, on guilt. Is there anything you think we've missed, or anything you want to bring up in particular, Jim or Dal?
Obviously, there's a lot of talk on this film about. What it has to say about the realities of being a refugee, and that's all right and proper. But I think the strength of the film is that it. I know the director said he wasn't trying to make a political film, and that's why it doesn't. I mean, you can actually work out from what they tell you that they're fleeing what was happening in Sudan, a few years ago, but he never. Stressing, he didn't want people to sort of to pull focus away from the humanity of the story, and the actual essential horror of it. And I think it also has a lot to say about how we sort of fit in, how we get along. That there's lines in the sand, as it were, where we all draw of what we're prepared to do to fit in.
Yes, and what we're prepared to tolerate.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you will put up with. If you know what I mean. And there's a lot. I think the genius of this film is it's about a very specific situation, but it does what good art does. It draws and makes you aware of the commonalities. And you know. These are characters who've lived very different lives to us, but I think anyone who watches this film is affected by it. You can find, not parallels, but you find points of connection, rather, of where you can relate and you believe them as people, as fellow humans, and feel for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think there's no real true horror without humanity.
Yes.
And this film's a brilliant example of how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that is the key element, isn't it? If you don't feel for the characters, you don't feel for the situation, you don't feel for the situation they found themselves in. If you don't feel that humanity in it, then it's just a bunch of noise and light trying to make you go boo. And I think I think that is its biggest strength. It is its humanity. Is that no matter how bad that some of the characters act in the reveal, and all the shit that they go through and all the horror they experience, they are still fundamentally, human beings trying to just make their way in the world as best they can with a terrible situation that they find themselves in, and you kind of go, oh God, it's amazing. It's amazing in that respect because you kind of admire their resilience and admire what they're willing to put up with. In absolutely the worst circumstances you can imagine. I mean, you can't leave the house, otherwise you're going to get deported back to a place you just nearly died leaving. Or you can stay in this house and be haunted by something that nobody else believes you, and you could be sort of... I mean, you're isolated inside and out, and that's just... Wow. I mean, it's just... I got completely blown away by this. And I thought it was brilliant. Dow, any final thoughts?
No, apart from the fact that I'm glad I chose this took a chance and, went with it. It's one of those gems. It's not a film that's been bandied about heavily, but it's a nice find when you do finally come across it. As we found a lot of films that don't get the big fanfare. And I think it's probably because they don't get the big fanfare. It's not already fixing an image in your head of what they are. They turn out to be the best ones to watch.
I will completely agree with that. I mean, I have to say in the last... Well, we've been doing this now for just over a year since we've come back.
Yeah.
And I have to say I've seen more varied examples of genre films and just films in general, from stuff where we're pulling from Amazon's lower depths, Netflix, the bits that the Netflix, algorithm isn't showing you. And I think we found some absolute gems. I mean, the history of time travel is a brilliant example.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is just amazing, and I'm really glad you picked this one because I was just like, wow. It's a great film. Not sure I'll watch it more than once without a bit of a gap because, like I say, that opening 20 minutes, 30 minutes just put me right on edge. You have to go through it, but I was just like, I've made a terrible mistake. Anyway, right. Well, I think unless anyone's got any final thoughts, I think we'll leave it there. And so, yeah, like I say, if you're still listening to this and you have watched the film and you've got thoughts, and if you think there's anything we've missed or anything you want to elaborate on, then send us some feedback in. Send it into feedback@Black Dog Podcast, or you can stick it on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/group/Black Dog Podcast, or you can jump onto Twitter and slide into my DMs, misses, where we're at Black Dog Podcast. Right. Go watch the film. It's on Netflix. It's brilliant. Right. So, now, before we go on to finding out what's going on in Hypnagoria Land, we have to speak to the man himself and find out what film we are watching next week. So, Jim, it's over to you, sir.
Well, I did look long and hard. There's quite a few films I wanted to see that I thought were possibles, but they were all a bit grim, to be honest. And I thought, kind of, maybe let's have something just a little bit lighter. Just as a bit of a contrast, rather than go with you were never really here.
Yeah. That's not a cheerful jaunt. I can tell you that for nothing. I've watched that. I've seen that film. Goodness me. Yeah.
So I thought I'd go through it, but I considered School of Rock, but I thought, I think the problem with that is probably not a lot to talk about. Because comedies are often quite hard to talk about, but that sort of set me on the thinking, And then I noticed Amazon Prime had a film I've not seen for quite a while. I've been meaning to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a comedy of sorts, but there's also an edge to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy.
Ooh. Well, there you go. So, yeah, Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy. Wow, that's a good pick, Jim. That's a cracker. Let's see all these fans of Joker suddenly come out of the woodwork and tell us how Martin Scorsese copied it.
Yeah.
So, oh, brilliant. Okay, well, okay, over to you, Dal. Have you ever seen this before?
I have. Many years ago. So this is going to be an interesting watch. I know what the gist of the film is. But yeah, it will be interesting, and also to see Jerry Lewis in an almost a straight role.
Yeah,
in this.
Mm-hmm. Okie
Playing
dokie.
completely against type, but playing quite a,
yeah,
horrible individual.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It's another one. It's another one like this film we just had, where you sort of see someone, and you think, oh, I think I've got the gist of where they are in the story, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, actually, you probably deserve everything you're getting. Cool. Okay. For me, I've only seen this film once. It made a massive impact on me because I was just like, fucking hell, what a movie. But I have honestly only seen it once. I saw it on BBC Two when they had a Scorsese season. And this was, I think, way back. This was like back in the Videodrome days, so Alex Cox doing midnight movies and all this kind of stuff.
Nothing's when I first saw it as well. So.
Yeah, so it's been a very long while since I've seen this film. I mean, I still remember it, but we'll just I'll have to view. I'm pretty much viewing it, almost fresh. I'll say, because given the given the amount of distance of time. Anyway, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And Jim, when was the last time you watched it?
Pretty early 2000s.
Yeah.
Pretty over 10 years ago, certainly.
Right.
Since I last saw it.
Wow. Cool. Okay, so you I say you're looking forward to it. You picked it, so I would hope so.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't normally like to speak for Elton while he's not around, but I will definitely say that he's probably not seen this.
Yeah.
I'll just take a guess. But, I will, we'll find out when we watch it next week and come back to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. But before we go, Jim, what's happening this week in Hypnagorio land?
I've just finished my series on the history of the H certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarre time when horror films got their own H for horrific certificate.
Yep.
And tomorrow there's a new commentary club coming out where we're looking at big hits of 83.
Right.
There's a bit of a prelude to get us an 80s mood for the next commentary club where we look at a film that came out in 1983. The non-classic Night of the Demon. One of the original video nasties, a.k.a. the one where Bigfoot rips a man's cock off.
Oh,
yeah. It's not the one with Carswell in it, is it? It's not that demon.
No.
I think we've gone a little off piste.
wow.
Very different movie.
Very different movie indeed.
I'm still recovering.
I can imagine. Okie dokie. Yeah, I was going to say I wow. Okay.
Exactly. What do you say after that?
Well, exactly. What do you say after that one? Okay, so. Well, I will. He says I'm going to jump onto Rogue 2 Media and see what's going on with Elton's land. Rogue2media.com at the moment. They have over in Rogue 2 Media. We've probably got a Grand Prix podcast episode gone up. Yeah, there you go. Monaco Formula 1. That's currently doing the rounds. So flappy paddles go round in circles. And Shonky Lab. I think Shonky Lab is... Oh, yes. And Shonky Lab has just released... Elton's just released a new episode of Shonky Lab about electric cars. Talking to Reverend Peter Organ about electric cars. Holy motors indeed. I don't know where that was coming from, but there you go. So yeah, so that's out now. You can find that all over at rogue2media.com. And Elton will be back next week, provided he hasn't been eaten by his haunted tellies in the loft. So we'll leave it there, and yes, thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Darren.
No problem.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. Sending feedback through the usual channels, and we shall see you all next week for King of Comedy. And until then, take care. Speak to you soon. Tatty bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'll do Elton's Tella, because we need to have that for the credits to roll. It's tradition, God damn it.
There's a voice that keeps on calling me down the road. It's where I'll always be. Every stop I make a new friend. Can't stay for long, just turn around and I'm gone again. Maybe tomorrow I'll wanna settle down. Until tomorrow I'll just keep moving on.
Get out of the booth, Jack.
No, I like it in here.